that's adding more stress to a complicated situation. But what made you guys decide to do that?
Yeah. As we were growing food for ourselves, we just started to get more demand from people in the area who not only wanted clean meat, but wanted to know their farmer and where their meat came from. And so that's when we got plugged into the farmers market here in Wichita Falls. We're now plugged into the farmers market in Oklahoma City. We have a small but mighty following on Instagram, and we love to talk about regenerative farming. That's what we do. The priority in the beginning was my health, but now our priority is the soil health.
Sure.
So everything we do for the land. The meat that we sell is just sort of a byproduct of that.
And so are you guys leasing land, bought land, both?
We lease land from my family.
Okay.
They do conventional farming in Walters, cattle, wheat, cotton, soybeans.
Is there because traditional people, if they're not familiar, traditional farming and ranching is completely different than, say, what you guys are doing.
Yes.
And I mean, I had a friend, they own like 3,500 acres up in Montana, and him and I would often talk. You can almost make just as much money on 100 to 200 acres as you can on 3,000 acres, just depending upon how you're structuring your business and what it is you're doing.
Absolutely.
But oftentimes what you're seeing in the farming community and ranching is a lot of kids aren't wanting to take over the family business or the farm, and so you're seeing corporations buy farms and things like that. So there's, not to go on a tangent, but there's this huge occurrence happening that people are unaware of this shift that's taking place at corporations. I mean, Bill Gates, it's been all over the news the last few months that he's the largest farm owner in the country now and things like that.
We lament that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's super unfortunate that, you don't have people taking over the family farm or even restructuring it. So is there like a butting of heads of traditional versus you? Does your family, are they supportive of what you're doing, or?
So thankfully, my family's been very supportive. I think if we were a part of a different family unit, that might not be the case. But I think it could be viewed as competition, but it's not.
No, it's not competition at all. They're two different markets.
Exactly. And my dad especially has been very generous with us. I do think people both in my family and surrounding farmers have seen us more as an experiment, like this hippy-dippy thing.
Yeah.
We'll see what they do. But
that's fair.
It is.
Because they've been there for 100 years. I mean.
Right.
And I think that's something that's often happened is that there's this animosity sometimes between opposing people, ideals and something like that, instead of on both sides. Like the traditional farming is like, oh, you can't do it this way, and then like your hippy dippy people are like, they don't show the respect to the people who've been there for 100 years either.
Right.
So I think there has to be a balance between both parties.
Definitely. And we communicate all the time that we never fault traditional or conventional farmers for the practices they use, because they are a product of their environment,
Sure.
A product of government subsidies and structures that have been set in
place. And
place.
those things have been it's not like it was a switch. It's like slow trickles over the course of 6-7 decades.
Right.
They didn't just end up where they're at. Mm-hmm. It was slow, methodical. Like you come in the 70s, you have this crisis. Well, what are you going to do? We're going to lose it all if we don't do this.
Yeah.
So that it gets you going down that road that you never intended.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of farmers and ranchers are in positions that they never intended or wanted to be in, but through circumstances of decades, that's what's happened.
Definitely. And we try to think of ourselves as just an experiment. So we have proven in the last 3 years that we have greatly increased the health of our soil that we run cattle on. We have the NRCS coming out to take soil samples and really monitor what we're doing. And we have proven that what we're doing is economically viable. And so our hope is that as this happens and as we continue to learn more about the ways traditional farming is actually harming our planet and harming our health, I mean,
yes,
agrochemicals, for example.
Absolutely.
The science is there, but what do we need to do now to transition away from that?
Well, I will also say, in researching it myself,